Spring is in the air. Spring is in the air, but I don't know if that is a good thing. Well, I mean, honestly, who can complain with about an 85-degree sunny day like we had yesterday and the day before? Kids were out at the park having fun, enjoying themselves, but we had our warmest December through February on record since the record was set in 2000. Nearly 4 degrees warmer than our previous record, an average of 40.5 degrees. It felt that way. It was warm. It was sunny majority of the time. February didn't accumulate any snow. And we are quite below our averages. And there was somebody told me this, which is, it kind of took a second for me to put it all together. But now we're significantly below our average, and our average is a C. So if we have an A plus winter, a B winter, a C winter is our average, and we're significantly below that average winter in Fort Collins. For numbers' sake, we have had 12.1 inches through February versus an average of 34.2 inches. Now, I mean, we are still early March, and some of our biggest, heaviest snows have been in April and March. So 32.2 inches, March 17th through the 19th in 2003. And then 22.4 inches in April of 2013. So there is still time. I would much prefer the snow we had this last weekend. We actually tried to go out to Eldora to go skiing, but that pass was just a little bit dangerous. And, wife and kid were in the car and turned that around, came back, didn't feel like it was worth the risk, but super solid, wet snow, hopefully like 5 or 10 more of those bad boys come through. Just one day, very wet. That's what I'm looking for. So, please give us that. But this is Live in Fort Collins. Come to you every Tuesday. Go about 15 minutes long, talking about things that are happening, city council meeting review, and things to do this week, which we are getting kind of into that St. Patrick's Day weekend. So a ton of things to do around the community. Northern Colorado Regional Airport, 2 big things that are happening there. Well, a lot of big things, honestly. There is, I've talked about it a time before, but I had on our podcast the director of the airport, and he said, I think it's one of the largest untapped assets in all of Northern Colorado. And I looked, and he said it could match what the city of Colorado Springs is doing. And I looked to see what they are doing, and they have 16 to 17 destinations, and I think like 4 carriers. They have Southwest, United, Delta, American, and Allegiant. And he thinks we could compete with or have similar type of productivity at that airport. Well, they're currently working on the widening of the airport. It's going to take longer than originally expected because they were going to shut down runways, and that was going to interrupt too much business. So they're going to take a little bit longer. But my guess is that will be done this year. And that'll be 2 of the 3 items that need to get addressed. And the third is a tower. And just last week, there was a conversation that there is going to be a physical control tower in the works. Now, it's not a for sure thing, but the FAA has awarded or has put us on a priority list for a grant to get that physical tower. Now, that could be this year we get the grant and work gets done next year or the following year, or 5 to 10 years out. So I'm not suggesting we're going to have commercial airlines anytime in the next couple of years, but 3 years potentially. And I would say before 2030 is what the goal was for the director of the airport when we had him on to the podcast. There's been some, I think, hurdles that they faced since that time. But I think by 2030, we will see a continuous commercial servicing airline out of Loveland to who knows how many destinations. It would be nice if there was a handful, maybe 10. But that being said, those are all in the works and could substantially change the dynamics of Northern Colorado's economy, visitation. I mean, Fort Collins is a tourist destination, and talk about consistent, reliable flights in and out of Fort Collins. Now, I do have a friend who lives literally right by that airport. And I asked him about that. I said, what would you think if we had, consistent commercial flights coming in and out of over your property? And he has one of the nicest properties in all of northern Colorado, let alone Fort Collins. Private lakes, tons of acreage, lined with trees, absolutely gorgeous. But he has also one of the best outlooks on life. And he says, you know what? If I want to let that annoy me in my life, I got other things I should worry about. So I appreciated that, because I'm sure there is going to be pushback and kickback from people living in and around that area, especially Eagle Ranch estates, excuse me. Wonderful development, but right in the flight path of potentially 17 destinations on a daily basis. So if that's not for you, which is funny, I talked with a client one time about that, and I said, you might want to steer clear of this airport or this neighborhood if this is a concern for you. And she goes, well, actually, I just started training to get my pilot's license, so that's not a big deal. I was like, okay, well then this is perfect. Go for it. So just buyer beware and know that is potentially coming. Has anyone been to the Dazo that is over by, I think, Troutman and College? And then there's a Miniso. Sorry if I'm pronouncing that wrong. Miniso. And this is more is a Chinese pop culture collaboration. And it just opened up near the World Market at the Fort Collins Council Tree. That area, by the way, is also like absolutely kicking butt. Just landed in IKEA in their 64,000 vacated storefront, which used to hold Urban Air. So now there's going to be an IKEA there. Miniso is going to be there. I mean, talk about, I think, just a really cool shopping center on the southeast side of Fort Collins that's absolutely kicking butt. But I haven't been there. Apparently there is like TikTok finds and snacks and pet items and all of that. So I'll have to go check out whether that be Dazo or Miniso, because I did see lines waiting to get in when those were going to be for the grand opening. So I guess I'm missing out on something. The Sugar Beet Saloon opened up at Jessup Farm. It was just kind of a rebranding, it looks like, of the old barrel house. And that's kind of a 140-year-old barn there. I've been there just one time. Super cool vibe. Jessup Farm 2 is also kind of one of those neighborhood centers, which we'll talk about city council priorities here in just one second. But neighborhood centers, Jessup Farm always is like an exciting thing for people who live in Bucking Horse or Rigdon Farms even, and want to just be able to go have breakfast at Jessup Farms or ice cream or get a workout in. There's a little bit of a commercial center there, which is really fun. And it's actually not even that little, because now the Pickler is there as well. Daycare, cool little things that are happening there. Now, City Council did adopt their priorities, 5 priorities, down from 11 priorities in 2024 to 2026, down from 30 priorities before that. And I think upwards now. I don't know if the city mayor, Emily Francis, was being, she was just kind of joking, but she said at one time when she was on council, there was like 99 priorities. So I don't know if that was in jest, but it has shrunk from 30 to 11 to 5. I'm a big believer in, focus. And what they wanted to ensure is like nothing in here necessarily focuses on environment, but that's kind of intertwined with all of their priorities. So like they want to make sure environment is definitely up there. But here are the 5 priorities. Promote affordability. Actually, I'm going to go here. Promote affordability. Now they're kind of long-winded. Promote affordability and sustainable growth by making development predictable, efficient, and cost-effective. I think that's probably one of the biggest things they could do to help business, the economy, and developers in Fort Collins. There have been developers that we've talked with, builders that don't touch Fort Collins because of essentially all of the red tape. And, the numbers have to make sense. There has to be such a large margin for them to be willing to go through some of this headache. We've talked about it on episodes past, but I think that's a big, important thing that the city council could do to help the city of Fort Collins development, cost of housing, moving forward. Don't give up any of our kind of standards, but make it a much more, and they should be able to, with technology these days, the process. And I actually just had my own experience on something totally different. And I'm not going to say names. I'm not going to say what I was doing, because the last thing I needed is somebody to watch this and be like, the next permit you put in, Patrick, we are going to absolutely red tape the mess out of you and you're never going to get through. So I'm going to leave that totally ambiguous and unnamed. But I just went through a whole bunch of hurdles over 2 months for a very small, very, very small project, but ultimately basically was like told, you don't need this, blah, 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 blah. And talk about frustration, because time is money. And on a very, very small scale, I experienced that frustration when it would have been so very easy to figure out what I needed to get done, how I needed to get done, and the communication. And anyways, I can only imagine on the next size up, all the way to a, 1,000-acre development, how crazy it must be. So if that's a priority, I'm in full support of it. The next one, bolster a thriving economy with a focus on small business, neighborhood centers, and quality job creation. City Council wants to attract primary employers. They want to provide incentives for the first time since 2015. And I'm happy to hear that they believe that a strong city begins with a strong economy, which is like, let's help the small businesses. Again, if they're doing a small change of use in a space, how can we make it so that it's not so burdensome for them to go from a restaurant to a office, or an office to a coffee shop, and make it somewhat attainable and affordable, and keep these businesses here, and also not have the brain drain from Colorado State University, where they get a degree here and then go elsewhere. Attract startup culture, building businesses, keep them here, and then those primary employers, bring them in, provide incentives. I know the city of Fort Collins is talking with employers right now, and this will help potentially bring and bolster some of those opportunities. Accelerate progress toward Vision Zero, which is eliminate all traffic-related fatalities and serious injuries by 2032. I mean, I love that this is at a forefront of 5 priorities. There could have been 30, 11, but this is one that made let's keep Fort Collins roads safe. We're a platinum-rated bike community. We're spending millions of dollars on underpasses, overpasses, protected bike lanes, paved bike lanes, and speed zones. I know that's kind of a contentious topic of the AVIS systems, automatic vehicle information systems, where they can get you a speeding ticket, but it's like saying, hey, there was some statistics. I don't have it to back it up right here, but essentially of all the serious injuries and fatalities, like 90% of them happen when a vehicle is going more than 40 miles per hour. So I love that kind of made it, and keep our roads safe, keep people safe here, especially those that are biking and leveraging all the amenities that we have. Connect community to council actions. They just want to be, I think, more transparent, more readily available. However that gets done, they're kind of saying some things. I'm like, that kind of just sounds very influencer-ish. But they just want to be a little bit more transparent, available. People can access it however they want to access it. That was a goal of theirs, a priority. And then finally, ensure the city organization's long-term financial sustainability. I think this is great in the sense I think they're going to start to look internally. Government has a way of bloating, and they're looking of like, how can we optimize? How can we make sure the systems we're using are the best? We have aging infrastructure. Is it the best infrastructure? City sales tax. How can we keep city sales tax dollars here? How can we promote all of that stuff that's extremely important for the city of Fort Collins? So I am full support of the city council priorities. Again, you don't see the environment anywhere in there, but that but they want to ensure that the environment is woven into everything, like the Vision Zero. That's getting more vehicles off the roads, more buses, more people on bikes. That's the environment. The types of business they want to provide, to recruit here, environmentally friendly biotech companies. So they're very focused on that as well. Like I said, this is St. Paddy's Day weekend. So some things to do. Founded in FoCo started this week. So if you're an entrepreneur, you want to go get some resources, connect with other entrepreneurs, March 9th through the 12th at the Fort Collins Senior Center, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. each day. Great plates downtown Fort Collins, again, March 1st through the 14th. Last few days doing that. $15, $25, $35, $45 plates that you can get a little bit of a discount, but they're asking you to spend the additional money that you would have spent to donate, to go to the food bank. Harlem Globetrotters are in at Ball Arena tomorrow night, 7 p.m. at Blue Arena, not Ball Arena, Blue Arena. Barney on the Block down in Greeley. There are parades, there are things going on in Fort Collins, Greeley, Loveland, so all over the place. But Barney on the Block in Greeley, 2 to 6 p.m. downtown Greeley. Sharon O. the Green 5K, March 14th, 9 a.m. starting at Odell Brewing Company. St. Patrick's Day Party at Mythmaker, St. Patty's Festival in Wellington. It is all over the place. Tons of things to do. Have a very safe St. Patrick's Day. I love that you guys are all supporting me. My name is Patrick. My grandma's name that I was named after was Patricia. So this is our holiday. They named it, with respect to all of our doings. So I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. If you guys have any questions, feel free to comment below. I'll make sure to get back to you. Appreciate you guys watching and enjoy yourselves. Take care.